And we welcome you to the second floor of the Duncan Student Center. A little bit of a quiet Duncan Student Center with freshmen now starting to move in, but look at us. We're already here and ready to rock and roll. JJ Post, Tyler Reedy, and I'm Jacob Iron. So happy to have you with us. While baseball may not have gone well for our three professional teams, we are now looking forward to a little bit more of college football back here on campus in year 2 of Marcus Freeman. There's a lot of positives, but there's also a lot of question marks heading into this year. And also, let's talk about it. 13th in the AP preseason poll. Last time Notre Dame was ranked 13th in the AP preseason poll. They were the lone team standing. But guys, let's start talking about strengths and weaknesses of this 2023 season.
I think you got to start with the strength, which is depth. And it's a weird strength to have because especially with the high-end talent on this roster is not bad by any means. I feel like when you say depth, there's kind of the stigma that you're implying that the elite talent isn't there. That's not true. Sam Hartman is an elite-level player. Joe Alt's an elite-level player. Benjamin Morrison is an elite-level player. But to me, I think the real strength of this team is the fact that they go 10 deep in certain parts of the roster. Defensive line, could on paper be this team's biggest weakness. But the reason it's probably not going to be the biggest weakness is they have so many guys that can fill in as rotational players. I don't think you could have said that for past Notre Dame teams. Guys like Jordan Matello, Riley Mills, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, Nana Osafo-Mensah. These are guys that on paper probably aren't going to be 10-sack-a-year guys. But they are guys that are going to play, they're going to start, and they're going to have guys behind them that can give them rest. They're going to be able to come in on fresh legs, switch in, game it, down in, down out. I think that's going to make what could be on paper a weakness, something that Notre Dame can rely on because they don't need Nana Osafo-Mensah to be out there for, a million snaps every game. They can rotate him in and out. And when you don't have depth, that's when your lack of star power becomes a problem. When you do have depth, you can augment a lack of star power by just having a lot of quality guys who are all fresh to go every play.
Elephant in the room, quarterback Sam Hartman. 4th different opening day starting quarterback in the last 4 years for Notre Dame. So how are the Irish going to stabilize that position? I think Hartman himself is going to help that case a lot more than in previous years, going all the way back to Ian Book. But the running game for Notre Dame, I think, is going to play a major factor in the way this season starts. You look back at the past 2 seasons, 2021, Kyron Williams, we were waiting for him to break out. It didn't happen until the end of September. Last season, the three-headed monster of Audric Estime, Logan Diggs, Chris Tyree, that didn't set in until the middle of October, even headed into November. But this season, you've got a loaded backfield, 5 deep of guys that can burn you. It starts at the top with Audric Estime, a man who put together some of his best performances in Notre Dame's biggest games this season ago, looking at Syracuse, looking at Clemson. And how about a man who's a little bit under-talked about, I think, heading into this season? Devin Ford, slated as anywhere from the backup to the 4th-string guy. He'll probably end up in the 3 behind Jadarian Price, who we'll get to in a moment. But this rushing game for Notre Dame is deep. If they get hurt on the back end like last year or on the front end like we've seen in years before, they're going to be able to find a way to get around that and keep moving the rock.
Yeah, and that's what you talk about is you want to continue to be able to move the rock downfield, especially when you're going up against some bigger teams like we talk about in this schedule. It is a very stacked schedule this year. We'll talk about schedule a little bit later in this show, but really it is one of those big moments here. But first, let's send it on over to our friends at Sunrise for a special video.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to ND Sunrise. This is the
review of the Keenan Review.
That's right, we've got a big game in Sim City.
Plot twist, I am the Grim Reaper.
Overall, this year's event was a rousing success.
Would Notre Dame be the first one to accept ASL as a foreign language as a department?
Once again, I'm Elena Morgan from ND Sunrise, signing off.
It's now time for Jadarian Price is Right. Yes, that is right. We are copying one of America's most beloved daily show games. Tyler Reedy, come on down. JJ Post, come on down. We're down here at the Duncan Student Center, and we are playing Jadarian Price is Right. They will be bidding on items, and they're going to tell us a number, and we're going to ultimately review that number in the bowl preview show to see if anyone went over or anyone who was the closest. So, in the namesake of the game, how many yards of scrimmage will Jadarian Price have? We will start with you, good sir, Tyler.
I'm going to start with 387. This is a little bit higher than JJ's total, and I think that early season, he's going to see some added time with Tennessee State, Central Michigan on the schedule, home games that Notre Dame should theoretically run away with. I think he could hit some home runs, bust some big-time runs, maybe find the end zone a couple times in those games. And it's a 5-man backfield for Notre Dame, but he's right near the top of it, right behind Audric Estime, Jadarian Price, man with a lot of potential who spent last season injured, but he's going to be back this year. He's got explosive speed. He knows how to find that end zone. 387 is my total for Mr. Price.
All right. How do you counter, good sir, JJ, that maybe you can get there?
I want a clean 300. I'm going to hedge for a couple reasons.
Okay.
For one, ACLs are a weird injury. By all accounts, he's fully healthy.
Yeah.
But they sometimes take 2 years to be fully back. And Notre Dame doesn't have a reason to rush him back. Notre Dame, I think, is going to want him to, maybe, they're not going to say take it slow by any means, but maybe not go full speed ahead in terms of giving him 10, 20 carries a game. And they don't need to because they have the depth to allow that. They've got Devin Ford. They've got Jeremiah Love, who by all accounts has been a standout in camp. They've got Jabran Payne, who also has looked surprisingly good in camp. And then that's not speaking of the bell cow in the room, Audric Estime.
Yeah.
So I think there's a chance that Price breaks 3 runs and gets the 300 right there. But if that doesn't happen, I'm just not sure the minutes, the reps will be there in a 4 running back room with a bell cow already established for him to get the amount of looks required to probably reach a number like 350 yards.
All right. Now let's get back to the defensive side. Botelho, how many sacks will he have?
I'll go 5. I feel like that's a nice kind of split between the idea of, Botelho's ceiling is going to be high. I think everyone knows that. He has an ability to get to the pass rusher really well. And we saw that in the Gator Bowl, when he was kind of the primary Viper. He had 2 sacks and was all over the place. But there's also been, games in the season where he feels like he wasn't up to full speed. And I'm going to say, the floor for him could probably be around 3 if he just never gets it firing. And, the ceiling for him could be as high as 10 if he's really going. I'll split the difference between 2 and say 5, because I think there's, he's going to be more of a situational guy than Isaiah Foskey was in the Viper role last year. I think they're going to use him more on pretty much exclusively passing downs. I don't think they're going to have him on the field for rundowns, which, if you're looking for sacks, doesn't really matter. But I think that speaks to the limited role he's going to have compared to some of the other primary Vipers Notre Dame has employed in the past. I'm going to go 5 because I think that's a nice little balance between what he could be, which is a 10-sack kind of guy, and what he also could be, which is a 3-sack kind of guy.
All right.
I'll raise you 6 for Jordan Botelho. Similar line of thinking to you. I think the athleticism, the tools are all there for him, but now I think that sense of urgency has to take over. This is his senior year, and the time is now for him to wreak some havoc on this defensive line. Isaiah Foskey out of the picture, leaving a big void for him and some of those other Notre Dame defensive linemen to fill, and he's right at the start of it. He's going to have to take a major role in pressuring the quarterback, especially when Notre Dame faces some of the best throughout the season.
Yeah, and then let's go back on the offensive side of the ball. We are bidding on Sam Hartman passing touchdowns. JJ, I will start with you. How many passing touchdowns do you think Sam Hartman will have by the end of the regular season?
I'm employing the same strategy I did for the last couple. I'm kind of hedging between what the ceiling and the floor could be. I'm going with 25. So I think that's,
okay.
I don't think that's an especially low number, and it's definitely not an especially high number. But, I think there's a couple things you got to consider for Hartman. For one, he's a prolific passer. We've already said that. He is the guy that Notre Dame brought in to take this team over the top. That being said, there's a couple things we got to consider. For one, Notre Dame does not have a lot in the way of returning receiving production. Maybe you get a breakout like Tobias Merriweather, Chris Tyree, Jaden Thomas is a reliable option. But in that room, as of right now, as of 0 games played in 2023, we don't really know who the star receiver is going to be. We don't know who the downfield threat that Hartman so often employed at Wake Forest is going to be. So that's giving me pause. And the other thing that's giving me pause, we don't know if Notre Dame is going to need a super high passing attack. To beat Ohio State, to beat USC, to beat Clemson, no doubt you need a good high-powered passing attack. But we saw in a lot of games last year when Notre Dame just leaned on the run and beat opponents up in the trenches, they had a lot of success against some of the teams we saw in the ACC. This is an ACC-heavy schedule: Louisville, Duke, NC State, Pitt, Wake Forest. Against teams like that who are probably more comparable to Syracuse last year than Clemson this year. I think those are the games where Notre Dame's going to lead on the run heavy, let their offensive line, their potential Joe Moore winning offensive line, and their running back stable do the work. And in games like that, which there are more of on the schedule than these elite opponents, Notre Dame's probably going to be more run heavy than pass heavy. So I'll go with 25 because I think it's possibly throws 35, but I think it's more likely throws 25.
Really quick for you.
Yeah, I'll hit you with 29. Notre Dame is a very good traditional red zone offense. I think that only picks up with Sam Hartman. Even if he can't necessarily develop major trust with 1 or 2 breakout receivers right away, he's got a collection of weapons that can make some plays down inside that 20-yard line. And I think that's where we're going to see him in this offense really thrive.
I agree entirely. I think it's going to be interesting. Once again, come back for the regular season, the bowl preview. But let's go to another thing. This was something we talked about a lot with special teams last year. Punt blocks, how many do you get this year?
I'm going 1. Let's be clear here. Brian Mason was a superstar in the industry, and he's a big loss. Not to say anything bad about Marty Biaggi, who by all accounts looks like a very good hire.
Yeah.
But when you lose Brian Mason, you lose, pretty much I don't want to say a genius, that's doing it strongly, but someone who was basically, peerless in terms of his punt block destruction. It was something that he had a reputation for at Cincinnati, and we saw it at Notre Dame. So you lose that. You also lose a lot of the notable special teams contributors. Prince Colley was a very underrated part of that punt block unit. He's now at Vanderbilt. Isaiah Foskey, obviously a very good Viper in his own right, but also he was a part of that punt block unit. So Notre Dame is going to need to restructure who they have kind of charging the punter, and they also need to do it under a new coach who no doubt is going to have his own philosophies on how he wants to do things, whether it be, maybe he's going to be more of a punt return guy. Mason was very big on we're going to try to block the punt, not return the punt. Maybe Biaggi will be a different way. We'll have to see on that front. I think they block 1 because you still have the talent on that line to break through, but I don't know if it's going to be on a prolific level like last year.
Got it. Tyler?
Can't say none because special teams make special teams, so I'll take 2. 2 for the Irish.
This is just because he wants to go over. Yeah. This is
none.
No, you could have bet 0. 0 was the correct. If you watch Price is Right, 0 was the right answer there, and he did not go with it.
I can't be that guy.
Guess what? I'm calling 0. Can the host win? I think he might in this situation. However, since you didn't do the right thing, we're going to go to Morrison. How many picks does he have this year?
So I think 3 is my number for Morrison because obviously he had 6 yet last year, correct? That is a high number for 2 reasons. One, teams were throwing at him more than they're going to throw at him this year because,
they found him.
Exactly. And Morrison was, I don't want to say under the radar. Notre Dame staff knew what they had in Morrison, but I don't think any team had on the scouting report, this is an All-American because he's a freshman and he didn't really start the first game. So it took a few games for him to kind of take that main role. So teams were throwing at him more, and, he's probably going to have another 3-pick game against Boston College, although we do play Phil Jerkovic, so maybe if there was ever a time for another 3-pick game, that would be the time. But I think he's going to get 3 because he's a really good player, and bad players don't just not intercept passes, but I think there's going to be less targets against him than there were last year, and I think teams are going to stay away from him more. So I think that number's going to come down to 3, but it doesn't mean he's going to be any less good.
Yeah.
I'm just going to let you know, if Notre Dame blocks 2 punts, 3 punts, 4 punts, 5 punts, then I win. I'm not going to win that with 0, so just want to let you know there. It's the better take. But anyway, I'm going to take 2 interceptions for Ben Morrison. I think quarterbacks recognize his talent from the way he finished up last season. The film is all there. He is an outstanding defensive back in college football. They're going to be throwing away from him early on, give other guys some opportunities, but he is still going to play a major role, and especially when you get into those big games, they're going to have to come after him at some point. I think that's where he's going to make his money.
I've got a bonus pick for you. Cam Hart over 3 interceptions.
Cam Hart over. He's got a bonus here, people. A bonus. And that's time where we give you a little bit more bonus as well, as our friends with Amazon have a little bit more.
Hi Irish, my name is Elisa Honey and I'm the NDTV Director of Operations. If you'd like to support NDTV, make sure to click on the link on the screen or in our description. It's an Amazon link, will take you straight to the site, and any purchase you make through that link, we receive a small portion of the revenue. This is a great way to support NDTV and get all those things you need for the perfect Notre Dame tailgate. I'm talking mugs and flags and hats and all the merch that you need. So make sure to click on that link and support NDTV. We're here for all of you. Thank you.
Welcome back to the second floor of the Duncan Student Center. It is now preseason superlative times. No, it's not just for yearbooks, it's for ND television as well as we get going. And let me just tell you, I picked some of these, and let me just say, there is fabulous alliteration involved in all of them. Let's start here with our best one, our best breakout candidate. So we kept the Canada off because that doesn't add for alliteration, but who do you think could potentially be the best breakout this year that no one saw coming?
Stop me if you heard it before. Riley Mills. And we said the exact same thing last year. To some extent, we said the exact same thing the year before that.
Yes.
Because there is so much to like about Riley Mills. He's 6'5". He's over 300 pounds. If you looked at his measurables, it's going to burst off the charts whenever he goes to the combine. He's been clocked to the GPS running 20 miles an hour. This is a physical freak. But the production hasn't matched that. And it's not bad by any means. He had, I believe, 6 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks in 2022. Those aren't bad numbers, but those are also numbers of a player that is the number 3 pass rusher behind Jason Adamola as well as Isaiah Foskey. This year, he's going to need to be either 1 or 2, and he's going to need to be a leader as well. Hopefully, some clarity on his role. He's going to be playing full-time on the interior defense line as a strong side defensive end, because he kind of split time between those 2 positions last year. Some clarity maybe will make him a little more focused, a little more able to hone himself in. And I'm thinking if he can finally translate those tools into production, this is going to be a really good player.
And then you have a good one that I'm interested about.
Yeah, the forgotten man of this Notre Dame backfield and now wide receiver group, Chris Tyree, entering his 4th season here in South Bend as a regular contributor for the Fighting Irish. You remember all the way back in 2020, he was busting a 94-yard touchdown run against Syracuse and finding the end zone, some of the most electrifying speed on this Notre Dame offense, and now he's in a slot receiver position where he can do a lot for this passing offense in Sam Hartman. Remember how good Theo Riddick was in that position about 10 years ago? Chris Tyree could do something similar this year.
Could. And then let's continue on with our fabulous freshman. Who do you have being one of those?
J.D. Greathouse is kind of the obvious pick because, you just look at a combination of factors. J.D. Greathouse, by all count, was one of the most, it's not pro-ready, college-ready freshmen coming in because he played in a complex high school offense that employs a lot of pro-style schemes. He also is at a position where Notre Dame badly needs a freshman breakout because we talked about this. The receiver room at present doesn't have a ton of existing production to lean upon. If they can get someone like Greathouse to step in, he doesn't need to be a 12-catch, a game guy. He doesn't need to win the blink and cough. But if he can be someone that reliably can move the chains on 3rd down, if he can be someone that gets on the field consistently, that'll be a big boost for this Notre Dame receiver room that is dying for someone to step in and prove that they need to be on the field more.
Linebacker Drake Bowen, he is ready for this moment, an early enrollee, a guy who I covered a little bit during National Signing Day last Christmas break, and I was reading about him, and this guy is getting other recruits to Notre Dame and hyping everybody up. He hasn't even stepped foot on campus yet full time, and he's ready to go, so I think he's going to know this playbook really well. Notre Dame is in a position where they can cycle through their linebackers very well, get into the 2s and 3s maybe throughout the season as it goes, and Drake Bowen, he is a specimen. Also could see numbers on the baseball team throughout this upcoming spring. You see his highlights there in high school. He's a force. He can get to the backfield. He can go sideline to sideline with the very best of them. He is going to be incredibly fun to watch this season, and we already know he's going to have an impact on special teams too.
Yeah, we already know, and that's what makes Notre Dame so special is because everyone has to contribute on special teams at some point. But now this is my best one. I think we always talk about Marcus Freeman, as you rightfully should, but there's assistant coaches behind him that get lost in the shuffle. Who this year is your amazing assistant? I think I can speak for both of us. When we talked about it, it was Brian Mason last year, special teams coordinator. We already touched upon it. Who is your amazing assistant this year that could bring a little extra juice?
The special team coordinator of the year, Brian Mason, to you, and long may he reign as my special teams coordinator in my heart. But I'm going to go with, same theme as last time, so Chancey Stuckey, because we talk about most valuable player, which we'll get to in a moment.
Yeah.
For me, value means what they bring to the team if that wasn't there. That doesn't mean necessarily the best player, but the most important to the success, and that is the wide receiver room for this team, because we know Sam Hartman's going to be good. We know the running game's going to be good. We know the offensive line's going to be good. But we don't know if Sam Hartman is going to have any receivers to throw to. Chancey Stuckey's job, be it both rebuilding the room off the field and recruiting, and on the field getting the receivers that he does have to get up and firing, is going to be a big one this year. Though there's not a lot that you got left in the cupboard for him when he arrived, and this is year 2 of his tenure, and it's going to need to be a big one because he has the quarterback now. There's no question about whether the quarterback can push the ball downfield. The question is, can he get the receivers ready to be kind of that weapon for him? And if he is, I think we're going to be singing the praises of Chancey Stuckey in a major way this winter.
If Sam Hartman struggles out of the gate in these first few weeks against Navy or Tennessee State or NC State, where are you going to look? You're going to look to that backfield. I'm going to stay with it. Dylan McCullough and that deep Notre Dame running backfield. Look at how we got them ready to go heading into this season, making Audric Estime into a grade A bell cow. I mean, you look across the country, people are recognizing, wow, Sam Hartman, Audric Estime, top 5 duo in college football at this point, and there's so much behind him. He's got guys like Price ready to go. We'll see what kind of role Devin Love can play, but this backfield can be deep, and this backfield can really save Notre Dame if this offense doesn't get going with that connection with Hartman and his pass catchers early on in the season.
And now for the big one, who is your preseason magnificent MVP?
I mean, I think we both know it's either one or two guys. I'll take one, you'll take the other. Sam Hartman. I mean, you brought the guy in for a reason. He is, the best quarterback I think you can say pretty confidently Notre Dame has had since Brady Quinn. I know Ian Book did a ton for this school, but in terms of raw talent, in terms of the ability to break open a game, Sam Hartman's resume is unmatched. You'll see here, there is no shortage of highlights to choose from what this guy can do with football in his hands. He has the ability to stretch the field in a way that Drew Pine, Tyler Buckner just couldn't do, and that's the why Notre Dame, kind of. I wouldn't say they went all out for him, but they basically told Pine and Buckner, like, you can stick around if you want, but this is our guy. We're going out and getting him, and we think he can take us over the top. We'll see if that happens. Obviously the questions in the receiver room need to be answered, but if there was a force multiplier to make that receiver room better than the sum of its parts or better than the talent in the room, it's going to be bringing in an all ACC level quarterback to lead the way, and that's exactly what Sam Hartman is.
I think we're going to my Moreau classmate.
Yeah, how about the man protecting his blind side? Joe Alt, the All-American left tackle. He's going to be teamed up with Blake Fisher this year, head starting that Notre Dame offensive line, and he can move people around so well. Look at the way he protects Drew Pine against USC.
Protecting a USC defense isn't.
That is true.
We didn't choose the best example for that one.
That is true, but hey, he's a playmaker. Everybody knows that.
Love
You
the
don't
big
need
guys.
you don't need to see his film to know that. Joe Alt is going to be a rock on this Notre Dame offense. Run game, pass game, doesn't matter. He's going to move people around, create space.
Yeah.
There's a good quote in soccer about, if you don't see the defensive mid playing much, that's a good thing because it means he did nothing wrong. That's what I feel about Joe Alt's film. If you don't notice him, that's because you don't need to notice him. He's never putting a foot wrong.
Yeah, that's what you hope. And something that might be getting a new refresh is the Dome. We sent it down to our very own Amanda, who takes us through what's going on over at the main building.
Good morning. I'm in front of the iconic Golden Dome, Notre Dame's administrative building. And you might be wondering, what's up with all of the scaffolding, as construction did not begin until students left for summer vacation. The scaffolding is actually part of a regilding process where they're applying a new coat of golden leaf to the dome. This project marks the dome's 12th regilding, with the last golden coat applied in 2005. The university expects to complete the revitalization by mid-October. We here at NDTV are excited to see the resplendent Golden Dome later this semester.
Thank you, Amanda. Now, let's talk about it. There's big games on this schedule. There's no doubt about it, from Ohio State to USC to Clemson in Death Valley. But I want to take a look at the trap games. What are these games that could cause a lot more issue for this Fighting Irish team than you would think?
I'll start with the end of September into early October. You got at Duke, at Louisville, back-to-back, slammed in between Ohio State and USC. I'll take at Duke because they look a little more promising to open up this season, but either of those two games, if this offense can't come out early and get things going, set the tempo early on, and Notre Dame gets into a little bit of a fist fight, could spell trouble.
Could very well spell trouble.
I'll take NC State, a place that Notre Dame historians out there will know. There have been some scary games there before. The Hurricane game will be an unfortunate memory for anyone who remembers the Ian Book years. But yeah, no, this was this is a game where NC State's not the best team on schedule by any means, but they're a team that they're well coached. Dave Doran always has his team up for a fight. It's going to be a rowdy home crowd. Notre Dame's not going to have any real experience playing against a tough home environment at that point in the season, and it's going to be a game where maybe some problematic memories for Sam Hartman, who struggled there last year. It's going to be maybe blood in the water for NC State, who wants to get a marquee win to open up the year. It's going to be a tough one. It's not the most talented team, but it's definitely going to be the trickiest.
And ultimately, I want to take really quickly records from you guys for the entire season.
I'll go 10-3 with a bowl game win. I think it comes down to, I think they're going to lose at least one trap game. There's too many of them between Duke, Louisville, NC State for them not to just slip up and drop one. That's normal. It's what teams do. But I think the season, this is an ingenious take. The season's going to come down to the 3 top 10 games they play.
Yeah.
They play Clemson on the road, Ohio State, USC at home. I think they get an upset in one of those games. Can they get more than one? If they can get more than one, we're having a different question about where this team is playing in January. But as of right now, I'll go 10-3 with a bowl game win.
All right.
I think 11-2 is an extremely safe bet because either you lose one of those 3 games, Ohio State, USC, Clemson, but still can easily be in a position to make the playoff with the other 2, and then you get bounced first round of the playoff, or you drop 2 of those 3 games and then win your bowl game that isn't in the college football playoff. So I think 11-2 is a pretty safe bet. That's where I'm going to go with it.
I like it. I think they're very safe. I don't think there's that much difference in this one. But guys, season is finally upon us. This wraps up our season preview show. But stick around for next week as we're coming to you from Dublin, as we've got all that and more. Well, we'll be here in Duncan, but we'll have correspondents across the pond as well. For JJ Post, Tyler Reedy, Jake Miller in the back, and all of our fabulous crew, I'm Jacob Iron saying so long. We'll talk to you tomorrow and later on down the road for more NDTV content.